It's the long weekend in September, so it's September 1st today actually. And we're into a bit of a wild food blitz. That's our plan for the weekend. That's 4 black ducks just lifted up here. So it's also the opening day of goose season, and I came out to the spot where I've seen geese in the past, but right now I'm just seeing ducks, and duck season doesn't start for another 2 weeks. There were 9 black ducks just flew by, and then 1 flew out of the cattails, and then 3 more, and then 1 more. So there's a few of those guys around. I see a great blue heron. I see a double-breasted cormorant. I see gulls. I don't see any geese. So we've already started off this weekend a bit early. We started around Thursday with some wild grapes, some mushrooms. I picked a really good patch of the yellowfoot chanterelle. Those are in the dehydrator. And we are... Here's a mallard. And we're gonna get into some acorns, some chokecherries, and I wanted to pick some elderflowers to mix with chokecherries for elderflower wine. I found a couple of late blooming elders in my area. Most of them have gone to berry already, or to fruit. So I think now that I've established that there are no geese here, I'm gonna move on to some other adventures. Kind of missed it, but that loon started looning, and then over in the woods off to the side of the lake here, there's a pack of wolves or coyotes started howling along with it. I was a little bit slow getting the camera up. Pretty cool to hear though. This is the ducks know where all the acorns are. And you got 0 of what you actually went out for.
Which was burdock root.
But instead, can we start over here?
Yep.
What do we have?
I found a bunch of wild grapes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And I picked these near to where that same spot is.
Mm-hmm.
These have started to drop.
Yeah.
The acorns, which is really exciting.
Did you pull their caps off, or did you find them without caps?
Without.
Yeah, okay. Because I found acorns today too. Most of them have their caps on, so.
Oh, there's a whole, in that other spot, there are a whole bunch of these.
Cool.
So we should go for them. And then
we went to throw some bait into the bear stand, and we picked about this many mushrooms. So some we left with my parents. The majority of these are the yellow chanterelles. There are a few boletes. 2 of them for sure are the porcinis or the king or queen boletes. This one I'm not sure yet. And there's a few lobsters. I don't normally like to pick the lobsters, but they're in really good condition. So
you found those little fairy
ring,
and then some oyster mushrooms.
fairy ring mushrooms. Oh yeah, and some little oysters.
Which are
so it's like a 5 species haul for mushrooms, and then apples and grapes and acorns. And so our plan, flip this around so I can see me. Our plan is to do jelly. That's our this evening plan. Do jelly, process mushrooms, and some of them will saute and some of them will go into the dehydrator. You want to say anything about that?
The chewed up antler that I found.
Yeah.
I thought the kids might get a kick out of it.
Cool.
So I brought it home.
So not as a multivitamin, the way that porcupines eat them, but just as a toy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we might be jumping the gun a little bit by picking up all these guys that still have their green hats. But this one that just fell out of the tree, like that's a good example of how you want to find them. And I think when we come back here in a couple weeks, we'll find lots like that. Nice fresh disc face and a brown mature nut. That's what we'll want to get a lot of. But even these, like you just chewed open a fresh one that had a cap?
Yes.
Yeah, and they still look, oh, we're not in frame there, but
I'm sorry.
they look really good too, so it's still worth our while to pick the ones that we're finding now.
Is it almost the same as what we had yesterday?
So there's a pretty good chokecherry patch here, and it's really brushy. I'm not going to carry the camera around while we pick, but I'm basically stripping these guys off, and we're going to try and get enough to do a batch of wine anyway, so we'll see how we make out. That's our acorn haul from the day. There's a few pounds of acorns in there, and I'll be running my wood stove soon, so I'm gonna set these up in my living room and just let them air dry, or I might bring them if I have a little bit of space at work. I actually have a really low humidity at work, and it's great for drying out acorns there as long as I've got the room and it's not in anybody's way. So that's our haul of acorns. These are all bur oak or white oak acorns. This was the two of us picking for 30 minutes. So probably over 4 kilograms. Almost 10 pounds. And this is our haul of chokecherries. So there's my bag of chokecherries. Delphanie was less picky about hers, so there's a little bit of stem in there, but what I'm going to do is start a chokecherry wine, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Okay, this is going to be my fermentation bucket, so I want to add my chokecherries, and I'm just looking for leaves and cocoons, spiders, things like that that I don't want in there. There's a leaf. Get some of that kind of stuff out. Okay, now I want these all crushed to release their juices, and I'm going to do that like this. Just going to hand squeeze until I feel like most of them have been crushed, and then once they're crushed, what I'll do is pour some boiling water over top of them, and when it cools down to body temperature, I'm going to add some yeast, and the yeast is going to be a bigwildyear cheat. I don't want to lose a whole big batch of chokecherries to a wild fermentation gone wrong. I haven't really practiced a lot of wild fermentation yet, and just so that I know that it's going to get a yeast that'll take it up to a really good alcohol content. I'm going to cheat for this, and I'm going to buy a little packet of yeast and use that. Alright, let's I see a lot of pits in here, so I think it's fairly mushy. We'll boil up some water. Probably, if you do make your own beer and wine, I'm sure there are some people who are just shuddering at some of my technique, but this is kind of what I do, and usually it turns out. So just adding the yeast, this has cooled down a little bit, but it's still just around body temperature, and I'm going to let all this yeast activate, and then this is going to get covered with a cloth, and I'm going to leave it sit for a few days, stirring it every couple of days, or a couple times a day, just to make sure that there is some full fermentation action going on in there. Well, it's pretty late in the season to be finding elderflowers in flower, but we found a few, and I'm going to put these in with the chokecherry must, and you can see it's really drying out on me, so I'm also going to boil up some water. I'm going to let it cool down a little bit to not so hot that I kill my yeast, and I'm going to top this up with some more liquid. We had a big storm last night too, so we went back to where we picked those other white oak acorns, and these were all the new fresh fallen ones from the storm. There's a few pounds in there, and then we also hit up a red oak tree that's dropping its early acorns, so not all of these are great, but we kind of couldn't resist, and we'll probably get some weevils out of them and some good nut meats, so I have to set those up to dry as well.